Hi everyone, I am Bianca Orozco with Standing Together to End Sexual Assault, here with my colleague Wendy Guzman and Detective Avila with UCSB PD. Hi Kovena, we're very excited to have you today and to learn more about your role and what it is that you do. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks so much for inviting me to do this. I think it was a great idea you all came up with. So just thanks so much for having me.
Yay! So kind of what the point of this is to get to know more about people's roles with in helping and supporting survivors of sexual assault. This is why we really wanted to get to know you a little bit better and share that with the community too. Put a face to the person, right? So just to get started, could you tell us a little bit more about your name, your job description, your title, your role? What does that look like?
Of course, yes. So my name is Kovena Avila, and I am currently the Interpersonal Violence Investigator, which is paid for by the Isla Vista Community Service District to serve survivors of the Isla Vista community. I started off in law enforcement in Guadalupe. It's a small city outside of Santa Maria. And then I transferred to UCSB. And then almost a couple years ago, I was selected to be a detective. So I'm really excited to be in this position, really appreciative for the opportunity that the Isla Vista Community Service District has given me to be able to do this. So I'm just really happy to be here.
What inspired you to work in this field?
I feel like all cops say they like helping people. And that's why I got into law enforcement. But as for specifically being an interpersonal violence detective, I had never heard of that until I came to UCSB. It's basically, all the VAWA crimes, the violence against women, sexual assault, domestic violence, and even child sex crimes. And so I had gotten some experience with that, in Guadalupe. And obviously, these cases are very delicate and sensitive. And I went to a training, I don't know when it was, but when I first came to UCSB, UCSB Police Department does a great job of training their law enforcement officers and sending us to training. And I remember in the training, I don't remember if it was even a sexual assault training. They were talking about how sexual assaults were underreported. I remember that caught my eye, and I was really a little confused. They mentioned things that survivors may not report because they feel like they may not be believed by cops, their social circle, society, that the police may not do anything. Some of them even reported that their sexual assault was not important enough to report. There's the shame, the self-blame, and there's so many more reasons. Obviously, the rape culture affects the underreporting. But I remember being so shocked and saddened and wanting to do something. I'm very maternal, and I really wanted to help. And, my position has really allowed me to get in there. And I think, unfortunately, what inspired me is us as cops get really used to interviewing suspects and we're really used to, detecting deception and when people are lying. And in that training, they were like, yes, when obviously there's no normal way that a person handles trauma, but they were stating things that to me as a cop before this training would see as a red flag for deception, but they were showing all the officers in the room how that was actually how trauma affected the brain. And that just absolutely opened my eyes. And I really wanted to help as much as I could and train my department and learn as much about this as I could.
Right. Well, thank you so much for the work that you do. Very
much. Oh, thank you.
Kind of going with that, because you did talk about your interaction with survivors, what is your role exactly? How is it that you come in contact with survivors? What is it, kind of not the conversation per se, but what does that interaction look like?
Absolutely. I think that's a really important question, because a lot of times we'll have survivors at the end be like, oh, that was not what I expected, or that was better than what I thought it was going to be. I think, unfortunately, you know, movies and society have put certain things in our subconscious brain of what we're going to expect. I like to think I'm pretty friendly, but it is something that's very scary, and obviously sexual assaults are still underreported. So the amount of survivors that I'm actually speaking with is so minute. But when I speak with them, basically my job is to investigate the any reports of interpersonal violence, to be fair and unbiased about it. That is like the general thing that any police department is going to do. But one thing what it would typically look like is we would usually get a report from STESA or CARE or DV Solutions, or from 911, and myself or one of my partners would respond, and we would, you know, obviously meet preferably wherever the survivor wants to meet. I've met in the Rose Gardens at the Missions. I've met at the beach, wherever the survivor feels most comfortable. But luckily, you all and CARE have great soft rooms. We're still working on a soft room at the police department. And then you all have that Isla Vista soft room, so that everyone feels comfortable building rapport, and then just conducting a trauma-informed interview, which sounds like a lot, but what that really is like an unbiased, empathetic, open-ended questions, more conversational, but it really gets down into the nitty-gritty. So I will be asking things before, during, after. I'll also be asking questions about the 5 senses that the survivor was experiencing at the time. I'll be asking about their emotional response and how they were feeling at certain times. And also, whoever's conducting a trauma-informed interview will also obviously understand that trauma can look like deception. And the point of it is to do a very thorough initial interview in hopes that the survivor will not have to keep telling their truth to other people, because we understand that those memories are attached to emotions and can be re-triggering. So we absolutely want to minimize the amount of times that we are interviewing a survivor. And then usually there's a choice between investigating or documentation only. We do have certain mandates. That's why we would recommend a survivor meet with STESA or CARE first. You know, domestic violence, there's mandates where we have to investigate, and we really want to be survivor centered. So if a survivor goes to you all or CARE first, then they can kind of mitigate how they want to move forward. So we can investigate or document what the survivor wants at that point of where they're at. I really take pride that our department updates the survivor, because the unknown is very scary. You know, hey, I'm going to talk to this witness today. Do you want me to call you after? Or even when the investigation's done, I'm going to send your report to the district attorney's office now. Is that still okay with you? Because once it goes to the district attorney's office, it's the people of California versus the suspect. And some of that power may or may not be removed from the survivor. So that's kind of ideally what the survivor would see from coming into a CARE or STESA office, or calling 911 and then getting getting connected with an advocate, to the interview, to getting updates on witness and suspect interviews, making sure that after we contact the suspect, or if there is going to be investigatory tools utilized that may cause them stress, that they have like a safety plan and practice self-care during those times, because
Right.
we understand that this is the most important thing in their life, and we're going to handle it as such.
Right. Something I really appreciate that you mentioned, that a lot of people, again, don't know, it's the trauma-informed part of it, right? So it's like, there's no right way for a survivor to respond, like you mentioned. Everyone
Absolutely
think that they're going to be distressed or crying or feeling, crying hysterically. And it's like, no, they're calm, they're numb. I've heard like laughing, right?
Yep.
So I'm so thankful for you for bringing that up and for always keeping that in mind when you interact with survivors as well. Yeah.
Of course, absolutely. Obviously, that the trauma is stored in the same place as trauma affects the same place of the brain where a memory is stored. So there may be bits and pieces that a survivor may remember, and that's okay. What's really important, though, is to gain the trust and build a rapport with the survivor so that they feel comfortable telling all the truth that they do remember. Because sometimes a survivor may or may not know what's important to us. And sometimes we may not even know bits and pieces that are important to us until later on in the investigation.
Do you have a favorite restaurant or activity in Isla Vista that you like to do or go to?
Yeah, I actually really like the Isla Vista Co-op. I have some food allergies, and I just love that I can find what I need there. I love that they have fresh produce, and they're local. They do a lot for their community. The vibe and good music they always have in there. So I would have to say that is where I go for when I'm going to make lunch or grab some snacks. I really enjoy going in there.
Just kind of because of the work that you do, the work that we do, we're always, processing with survivors, or we're talking about sexual assault, or we're looking it up, or we're thinking about it. So what are some activities that you do for self-care, and specifically now during like stay-at-home order, to take care of yourself?
Oh, wow. So, well, I feel that, I really enjoy my job, so that helps a lot. I feel like I'm making a difference. I feel like I'm available if someone needs help. So just being grateful for the work that I do. And then also, then you come home and you take care of your family, and that brings me really great joy as well. During the stay-at-home orders, the boys are not in school, right? Well, they are in school, but like they're not physically in school. So, we've been doing a lot of housekeeping, cleaning the rooms and such, but we started planting seeds. So it was really cool for the boys to see how tiny carrot seeds were, and then they actually grow. We seeded stewing, I don't know what it's called, but started from seeds, some zucchinis, some bell peppers, some corn. We have chickens. They're just taking care of the chickens. We've been playing board games. One of their favorite board games right now is like a mustache board game, and it's like trivia questions. And so I'm learning too. You forget geography. You forget like third grade, fourth grade level things because it's been some time and you work on your own career and you specialize in something. So it's good. It keeps me fresh. But it's so funny because whoever has the biggest mustache, the longest mustache wins. And it's just so funny because I have to get my mustache waxed once a month, but I get rid of mine, but yet in the game I want the biggest mustache. So yes. So that's been a lot of fun.
But thank you so much for sitting down, taking the time to talk to us about what you do and how you support survivors. I really enjoyed getting to know more about you too. And hopefully the community does as well as we share this information with them. And this isn't the last collaboration, right?
Yes.
We'll find another way to work together. But thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure. I'm really excited to be a part of this.